Rex Tillerson's secret visit to Afghanistan has not only signalled a significant shift in attitudes towards the Taliban, it's also left reporters a little puzzled too. We'll tell you why. Play a bit of spot the difference here. Here's the official picture that was released by the Afghan government following the president's meeting with the US Secretary of State. Then contrast it with this later. The US also put out a picture. You'll notice that in the Afghan version on the right, a large digital clock and a fire bell are raised. Why? The State Department thinks the photo was altered, they say, to make it more attractive.
I think the Afghan government changed those photos probably to make it aesthetically more pleasing. We never like doctored photos, but also understand that perhaps they wanted to present a better image than having met at Bagram. But again, that's really all I have for you on that.
Or is there another story here? That meeting took place at a heavily fortified US military base, although it was previously claimed it was in the Kabul capital. Former Pentagon official Michael Maloof thinks the editing was indeed done to mask the true location.
Well, I think it was done for security reasons. What was taken out was a clock with Zulu time, and that indicates a military base. I think what President Afghani was trying to show was that he held the meeting actually in his presidential palace, but that was not the case. It was actually at a very secure military facility in Bagram. It does underscore how fragile the security is in Kabul, if not throughout all of Afghanistan.
Despite the security concerns, Rex Tillerson claims that there is room now for the Taliban in the Afghan government. The very same fundamentalist group, let's not forget that America's spent 16 long years fighting. It's been its longest war.
We are looking to engage with those voices and have them engage in a reconciliation process leading to a peace process and their full involvement and participation in the government. There's a place for them in the government if they're ready to come renouncing terrorism, renouncing violence, and being committed to a stable, prosperous Afghanistan.
RT's Samira Khan next explains what might have brought about such a key change in America's attitude.
On an unannounced visit to Kabul on Monday, Secretary Tillerson told reporters that Washington thinks moderate factions among the Taliban exist and that there's a place for them in the country's government so long as they renounce violence. But this presents a bit of a dilemma as to how the U.S. will be able to differentiate between the moderate and radical factions, since it didn't work out so well in Syria.
Can you tell us what the total number of trained fighters remains?
It's a small number. And the ones that are in the fight is we're talking four or five.
Let's not kid ourselves, that's a joke.
We have to acknowledge this is a total failure. It's just a failure.
This train and equip program has not, frankly, lived up to what we initially thought.
The program hasn't lived up to expectations. That's an understatement, isn't it?
But the U.S. is no doubt wary the pattern could repeat itself in Afghanistan. Now, Tillerson also stated that the fight against the Taliban should still continue, quote, in order for them to understand that they will never win a military victory. But after 16 years of war, neither side has achieved victory. So that could possibly be the reason Secretary Tillerson is now pushing for the political option. On previous occasions, however, when the U.S. urged the Taliban to negotiate, the Taliban's reply was quite clear.
We call on the Taliban to enter into a peace process, a legitimate process, a real process.
I want to reinforce to the Taliban that the only path to peace and political legitimacy for them is through a negotiated settlement.
Theoretically, it would be nice if they could come, if the Taliban would decide to want to join the government. The question is, will the Afghan government allow it, number one? But number two, I think the Taliban have already made a decision that they're just going to wait out the United States. They've been quite successful in taking over half the country now. Before, It was far, far less. It's not certain that the Taliban will remain in a moderate force if they see that they're winning.